Hello, everyone. Today, I'm going to introduce you to an exciting monster horror movie. Jackson's mother just passed away, and then something unexpected happened. A lawyer told him that his mother left him a seaside property. But Jackson had never heard his mother mention this before. On top of that, his father and sister had gone missing before he was born. He had no idea his parents owned any property. The lawyer pulled out a 50-year-old house purchase contract from his bag. The writing on the paper was more convincing than any explanation. Jackson couldn't understand why his mother hid this from him. So, taking advantage of the weekend, he took his wife and daughter to visit the seaside property. Following the map, the couple ventured deep into a remote forest. After driving through a bumpy mountain road, the car suddenly stopped. Luckily, the property left by his father wasn't too far away. After walking for a few minutes, Jackson's family spotted an old wooden house covered in vines. They pushed open the sealed wooden door and finally stepped inside. Although the unexpected house was filled with old furniture, it still carried traces of his parents everywhere. What surprised the couple even more was that the balcony in the living room had a perfect view of the coastline. Then Jackson noticed a square stone lid nearby. When he opened it, he found a water reservoir. Curiosity got the better of him, and he decided to climb down and check it out. The space inside was much larger than he expected. It must have been connected to a nearby mountain spring. Jackson's family really liked the house, so they decided to stay for a few days. But something strange caught their attention. Every window was boarded up, as if someone was trying to keep something out. While cleaning up one of the rooms, Julie accidentally found Jackson's mother's diary. Judging by the dates, she had started writing it when she first moved in. At first, Jackson's parents and sister enjoyed their time in the house. Then one day, a group of people suddenly appeared, offering to build a water reservoir. They drilled dozens of feet deep and finally connected it to the mountains underground. This allowed Jackson's parents to drink fresh spring water. But soon after, his father mysteriously disappeared, and even the local police were helpless. The diary ended abruptly, as if someone had torn out the last pages. Jackson felt certain that his mother and sister had gone through something terrible. But why had his mother never told him? Just then, his daughter woke up in her room because of strange noises. She felt like something was moving under her bed. Looking down, she saw the carpet slowly rising, so she screamed and ran to find her parents. Remembering the diary, Jackson and his wife took the situation seriously. They searched the house inside and out, but aside from the sound of the ocean breeze, they found nothing unusual. The next morning, Jackson decided to restore the water system. In the storage shed, he found a water pump and lots of chemical fertilizers. He quickly realized these were highly flammable materials. After warning his wife to be careful, Jackson dove back into the reservoir. The place had been dry for years, so he could move around freely. Soon, at the bottom of the reservoir, he discovered a water control switch. After turning it open with force, spring water slowly started flowing out. At that moment, Jackson realized there was something hidden behind the switch. A deep tunnel stretched into the distance. He wanted to explore it but decided against it, because he had just discovered something strange. He brought it up to the surface. Even his wife Julie, a biology PhD, was surprised. She was certain it was an undiscovered amphibian larva. It had gills but lived on land, using its bony spikes to walk instead of legs. Its completely degenerated eyes suggested it had lived in underground caves for years. Meanwhile, their pet dog, playing near the door, suddenly started barking loudly at the reservoir. Their daughter Lily curiously walked closer and saw large ripples on the water's surface. Jackson and Julie rushed over when they heard. They guessed that some wild animal had entered the reservoir. At that moment, a real estate agent appeared. She said that this beach had been bought as private property. The new owner wanted to buy the wooden house but couldn't find the original owner. She was just passing by today when she happened to see that the owner had returned. At first, Jackson and his wife had no plans to sell the house. But after hearing the incredibly high offer, they became interested. They told her they would think it over for 2 days before deciding. The real estate agent was delighted. Seeing that it was getting dark, she decided to return the next day to discuss the details. But just as she was driving away, something wrapped around her car, forcing it to stop suddenly. As she prepared to step out and check, a massive force flung her into the air. Struggling to get up, she barely had time before a strange creature appeared and dragged her into the forest. Her screams echoed through the valley. Julie, who was sleeping soundly, suddenly woke up. She thought she heard something outside, so she went downstairs to check. She caught a glimpse of a shadow darting past the window. Jackson rushed over and checked the surroundings, but he couldn't find any signs of movement. Julie was sure it wasn't just her imagination. She urged her husband that they should sell the house as soon as possible. Jackson didn't hesitate and agreed. The next morning, something must have gone wrong with the reservoir, so he climbed back in to check. The water reeked of rotting mud, as if something had disturbed it. Jackson went straight to the water pump and saw that the spring was still flowing. It wouldn't be long before the water became clear again. Just as he was about to turn around and leave, he noticed something floating on the surface. He immediately called his wife and daughter over. It was a raccoon's dead body. That must have been the source of the shadow and the ripples they saw earlier. But wrapped around the raccoon's body was a cloth bag containing a necklace. Julie found it strangely familiar, so she quickly ran inside to grab an old photo. They realized that the owner of the necklace was Jackson's sister. There was no doubt, his sister had probably died nearby. Julie thought they needed to drain the reservoir and search it thoroughly. Jackson nodded in agreement. But first, he had to go into town to buy some diesel. He had barely driven out when he saw the real estate agent's car from yesterday. Bloodstains were scattered around it. Slowly, he followed the trail. And then, he was struck with horror. The real estate agent was lying on the grass, showing signs of an attack. Jackson fought the urge to vomit and rushed to his car to call the police. Then he quickly drove back home. He was worried about his wife and daughter. Luckily, they were still safe in their bedroom. He told them everything that had happened. Julie immediately understood. Then, she pulled out something she had found in the abandoned storage shed. It was the missing pages of Jackson's mother's diary. Jackson eagerly opened it. It revealed that after his father disappeared, his mother realized something was trying to enter the house. Sealing the windows didn't help. After witnessing her daughter being dragged away by a monster, his pregnant mother had no choice but to flee the place. She feared that future generations would suffer the same fate, so she kept the house a secret. Both Jackson and Julie broke into a cold sweat. They immediately decided to leave this cursed place. Suddenly, the sound of police sirens rang out. Jackson realized the police had arrived. But as he stepped outside, he heard a deep, terrifying growl. The police had responded to his call. An officer stopped at the roadblock. That's when he noticed a horrifying creature lurking nearby. He tried to suppress his fear and reached for his gun. But before he could react, the monster lunged at him. He dodged the bite, but its sharp teeth had already torn into his leg. All he could do was watch as the creature inched closer. By the time Jackson arrived, he could only see the bloodied officer being dragged into the woods. Terrified, he ran back to the house to warn his wife. The monster was near their car. Going outside now would be suicide. So he came up with a plan to lure the creature away. He told his wife and daughter to stay inside and ran to the storage shed. Jackson grabbed some highly flammable fertilizer. Then, he quietly climbed into the reservoir. He suspected the tunnel led to the creature's lair. If he destroyed it, he could draw the monster back. Once inside, Jackson set up the fertilizer and nervously lit the fuse. But before he could retreat to a safe distance, a loud explosion rang out. The force sent him tumbling into the water. Suddenly, he felt a strong force pulling at his legs. He didn't expect the monster to be hiding underwater. Jackson used all his strength to fight back. Miraculously, he managed to escape the monster's attack. Exhausted, he crawled out of the reservoir, only to see another terrifying creature. It was dragging his daughter forward, then disappeared into the water. Just then, his wife Julie ran outside. It turned out that while Jackson was setting off the explosives, Julie, hiding in the bedroom, was also attacked by a monster. She never imagined it would be so powerful. In an instant, it smashed through the door and roared right in front of her. Acting on instinct, she grabbed an oil lamp to fend it off. She realized the creature was afraid of light. However, as it retreated, it seized the opportunity to snatch their daughter, Lily. As a mother, Julie couldn't leave her daughter alone. She quickly soaked a mop in alcohol. Then, without hesitation, she jumped straight into the reservoir. Julie knew these creatures had lived underground for ages and had a natural fear of light. That thought gave her some confidence. But she didn't expect the monster to strike so aggressively from below. Julie reacted quickly, stabbing at the water with the mop handle. When blood started rising to the surface, she finally breathed a sigh of relief. Moving forward, she finally found her daughter at the cave entrance. But just then, Julie's face turned pale with fear. It wasn't just one terrifying creature. Luckily, she was prepared and quickly ignited her flamethrower. The intense heat forced the monster to retreat. Julie didn't hesitate for a second and rushed her daughter out of the reservoir. But just as they helped Jackson, who was injured, into the car, another monster appeared. Julie quickly grabbed the police officer's fallen gun, aimed at the monster's mouth, and pulled the trigger. Then, she slammed the gas pedal and sped away from that terrifying house. In the blink of an eye, months had passed. A construction team arrived near the house, preparing to turn the beach into a resort. As always, where there are people, greed and destruction will never end. And that's the full story of The Tank, released in 2023. If you enjoyed this, hit like and turn on notifications so you won't miss out on new movies. Thanks for watching.